what probably saved my life was finding entrepreneurialism, finding, in my case, real estate investing, a niche, a community. It was a blue ocean when we started this company 6 years ago. Finding my brothers and sisters who spoke two of the same languages. They spoke military, which comes with an inherent trust. You've been through some of the same stuff. And two, they spoke real estate. And if they didn't, they wanted to speak real estate. We teach them how to speak real estate. And so that transition gave me hope. Find a new passion and purpose.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Today's guest is a Gobundance Memories fascinating guy. Eric Upchurch is an Army Special Operations veteran who grew up in central Iowa before attending college in California. He has a passion for educating the military community on how to create long-term wealth through real estate investing while personally investing across the country for the last 17 plus years. Eric serves as co-founder of ADPI. I didn't know this before now, Active Duty Passive Income, and is a senior managing partner with ADPI Capital. That just means Tim and Adam are taking up all the air to make it that like they're the ADPI guys and they're leaving you, the real founder.
Come on.
Fire them. Fire them. That's my suggestion.
No, they're my brothers.
Welcome, brother. Great to have you.
I'm so glad to be here. And, just leading up to this, I'm like, maybe a little bit more nervous. Actually, it's probably excited about being on this podcast than any other, just because of the way you present and dig in and really discover your guests. So I'm looking forward to the conversation.
I appreciate that, man. You've been on some big ones, so I appreciate you saying that. And just as a reminder to our audience, if you're interested in Gobundance, go to Gobundance.com, fill out an application, whether you're a millionaire or not. We've got communities for you. It's an incredible experience. Eric, I just met him at a recent event, and you can't go wrong. Check it out, Gobundance.com. Eric, so you're Army, what was it? Special? I got to go back to it.
Yeah, Special Operations
Veteran. What does that mean? What is a Special Ops Veteran?
Man, I enlisted after college. Most people would go and be an officer in the military once you have a college degree. That's kind of the differentiation for most people. And I chose to be enlisted for two reasons. One, it paid off all of my college debt. I went to UC Santa Barbara in Southern California. And second, I've always been an influencer of people. I've always, and without choosing that, part of my personality growing up in Iowa, and that's why I put it in my bios, because it's one of those interesting things when I'm looking back, when I was 12 years old, detasseling corn in Iowa, I became a team leader. Not because I was like, I want to be a team leader, because somebody recognized something and said, you should be leading this row to make sure that everyone doesn't miss a tassel, or whatever. And then in retail, and then in the military, every job I've ever had ended up inadvertently in a leadership role. So I chose to be enlisted because obviously it did the college thing for me, but also because I was a 24-year-old enlisting and had the ability to go influence 18-year-old knuckleheads. And I thought I would be able to make an impact. And that worked out really well for me. So yeah. Glad to have done.
How so? Well, give me an idea of that. First thing, real quick, you don't get your college tuition paid if you come in as an officer. It's only if you enlist after college.
Correct. For the Army, there was an Army loan repayment program. So most of the people will go enlisted, and then they dangle this like GI Bill carrot in front of you, like, oh, you can get your degree when you get out. Most people don't even do that when they get out. So
right.
I already had a degree, and so I was like, they were like, you can be enlisted and have all your college debt wiped out. Or you can go officer and you'll make, I don't know, it was like $2,000 more a month. And not even that, it was probably like $1,500 more a month and be an officer. And then you'll be in the officer ranks, you'll be a second lieutenant. And I was like, I think like, I want to go influence people. I want to be a 24-year-old and like be able to help people and understand that like college isn't for smart people. It's for dedicated people,
Was that a real conscious thing? Like, so you went in like, okay, I'm enlisting, get the college paid off, but I really want to influence people. Like, is that a thought process at 24? Was it that formed?
The word influence was not even part of my vocabulary at that point, especially the way it is now. Like everyone's like, oh, whenever I say influence, I feel like it's derogatory almost, like, oh, here's another guy trying to influence people. But we influence in everything we do in life. So now recognizing it, when I say it, what I mean is I without knowing the term or using the term, I did recognize that every job I'd ever had in the past I ended up becoming a manager or a leader of something, of people. And I never tried to do that. I never sought out that role. But and now as a about to be 43-year-old guy, I can look back and go, that's just who I am. I don't have any control of that. And it's partly, the way I speak or the way I act or the way I will do a task or whatever. And an amazing part of that too is there's a whole other side of that. Like there are people who listen to this podcast right now that think I'm completely full of shit. And then there are people who on this podcast are listening to this podcast right now. They're like, I can resonate with that guy. And I'm 100% okay with that, because you can't get along with everybody. Not everyone's going to be able to influence you is my point. Right. But those that I am able to influence, I do it in the most heartfelt, purposeful way. And that now is the one standalone thing that is keeping me alive, and it is keeping me feeling fulfilled, not just achieving. And I could go on and on about this, but like the two mountains we talk about in Gobundance, you got the first mountain is Achievement Mountain. Second mountain is Fulfillment Mountain. And, and now I'm at that stage, I think, where I'm still achieving. We're always achievers, but my heart's at is Mountain 2. My heart is in how can I end veteran homelessness this decade? My heart is how many military members can I change their lives because mine is different. And then there are the super kind of impactful, like selfish things that go along with it, like the gratification I personally get out of seeing a result from somebody. So along the line, there was probably all of that. There was probably, as I'm choosing to be enlisted, going like, I'm going to feel good about helping other people. So there's always that kind of selfish component to it probably. But as long as you're helping somebody else along the way, it's golden, man.
It's funny. I don't believe in the word altruism. I don't think it exists. In other words, altruism is the concept that I do without any regard for me. And I think that maybe it's the cynic in me, but I think that's bullshit. Like there's, like you said, even if I feel really good about it, that's for you. Right. Yeah. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
There isn't.
There's this idea that like, oh, it's completely selfless. I just don't think it exists.
No.
What?
No. I'm open about that all the time too. I always tell my wife, I'm like, I do these things. Like when I speak on a stage, when I impact a soldier or airman or Marine or whatever it is, or I do it because it makes me feel good. It makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sure, it helps people also.
That's the big thing. That's the big thing. Like, in helping, that's the fulfillment piece, the purpose piece, right? Like it's making you feel good because of the service you've given to somebody else. So that makes perfect sense to me. How long did you stay in the military? What was your total career?
I was in 6 years, and I was in the same unit the whole time. So my path was, I'll give you a kind of I don't know, I think it's kind of an interesting story. I didn't sign up to be in special operations. I signed up to be in an Army aviation. I picked a job and I was like, this will do. This will be awesome. And then I was trying to make it to my wedding on time. So I knew it was a 6-month cycle from basic training to advanced individual training to the end. And I left in January. My wedding was at the end of July, the end of January. And then my wedding was the end of July. So I knew if everything went right, meaning I didn't piss off a drill sergeant, I didn't sprain an ankle, I didn't phase out, I didn't miss a test, physical or written or a hands-on test, which is a hard thing to do in the military when you don't know anything.
Sure.
Or over a 6-month period. So I was like, I'm going to be gray man. I have no plan B. We have 120 guests coming to Southern California from out of state. I have to make it to my wedding. But I also need to be gray man. I don't want to cause any attention. I don't want anybody to know I'm here. That was just bullshit. I was an E4, so I already had a higher rank than everybody else in the training battalion just because I had a college education. So I screwed myself there.
Oh, wow.
So I immediately stood out to the drill sergeants. So then I had this extra pressure of, okay, now I'm the platoon guide because he saw that I was an older guy with a college degree. And so now you're going to lead these guys. Okay. I ended up, to summarize, at the top of my class. but only not because I wanted that, but because I didn't want to fail my wife. I didn't want to miss my wedding. So ended up top of my class. And because of that, I got orders to Special Operations Aviation Regiment. Didn't even know what it was. And what it is all those black helicopters that fly around at night and do all the cool missions, inserting the SEALs that got bin Laden, even back to Black Hawk Down. Unfortunately, that was our unit. That was my battalion.
Wow.
All, Zero Dark 30, Active Valor, all those helicopters in those movies are from events that our, unit participates in. And we're doing that. Those are just like the flashy Hollywood things. Like we're doing that every night. We're out there, getting the next bad guy, and there's always a new one. So,
what's the flashiest Hollywood moment of your career, if you can share it?
Oh, I had nothing.
Unless it's classified.
No, I mean, to me, like I enjoyed the camaraderie of it. There wasn't like a moment. I'll tell you one that stands out to me. First time I was on a aircraft in Iraq, where we're out on a mission and all the flares went off, and you're wearing night vision goggles and the flares go off. And I had never experienced that, seeing it through, the green lens. And I almost crapped myself.
I'll bet.
Because you're in country, you're flying a couple hundred feet off the deck. And I'm like, I asked what that was. And one of the crew chiefs was like, yeah, somebody probably, was targeting us with an RPG or something. I'm like thinking to myself, okay, this just got real. Like this just got real for me. As the first time you see that, you're like, okay, so let's prepare. Like, are you going to go like blow this guy, turn him into pink dust real quick? Cause we had miniguns on the sides of our helicopters,
Why pink? I guess they're insides out.
Well, yeah, just the blood explosion in the air. Yeah. It's just pink dust. Yeah.
Pink dust.
So they were like, no, it's not our mission. So even being targeted or shot at, unless you're hit and need to address it, the mission is time on target plus or minus 30 seconds. You got to go pick up or deliver the next badass SEAL team member or whatever they need. You got to be there. Yeah. And so all the people who are spraying and praying down there, they can't see us. We can see them. I mean, killing them would be easy, but for the crew chiefs, but that's not the mission. So anyway,
that's crazy.
Long story short is just fear. I'm just going to say that, like, just holy crap, what did I get into here? And this is real. And I need to be careful. I remember
it's funny, 2 years ago in Tahoe, we had, Rob O'Neill, the name.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He came in and he spoke to the group, and then, he was telling stories around a campfire, and every drink, the stories got a little bit more open or whatever. But I'm always curious with guys like you, veterans, people that have been in, especially in special forces. I mean, there's like this code, this brotherhood. You've got these guys out there, Marcus Luttrell, Rob O'Neill, and I know they may not be the same in that regard, Jocko Willink. But how are some of these sort of celebrity SEALs or celebrity David Goggins? How are they viewed? You can't speak for every human being, so maybe speak for yourself and maybe generally what you hear. I'm always curious about that. Like, Rob O'Neill shot bin Laden, so he claims. He's been made famous because of that. Is there resentment there?
No, we delivered him to the target that night.
Were you there?
I wasn't on the aircraft, but my unit flew him in there that night. Yeah. My battalion, actually. And by trade, an aircraft structural guy, we developed that airframe. That that wasn't a standard Black Hawk. We didn't have the rights to fly into Pakistan, so we had to develop a new airframe that wasn't visible on radar. So those two aircraft that were later exposed, and then the movies start coming out and showing it all. That was years in the making. But anyway, to answer your question,
that's cool. Yeah,
I'm proud of them. I'm happy for them, and I'm proud of them. Not a lot of people feel comfortable talking about it, or think, oh, if you talk about it, you're just, talking shit or like whatever. Like, everybody has different experiences, and they're all kind of neat to hear about. Some people just don't want to talk about them. I don't mind so much, but I wasn't Billy Badass kicking doors in either, and I'm okay with that. you know?
Yeah.
I didn't want that for my life. And in fact, even though I was an aircraft guy, I was also the burial detail NCOIC, non-commissioned officer in charge. So in my unit, whenever we would lose a guy, I would be tasked then with going to their hometown, stopping what we're doing, and go home to their hometown, and we would have to do drill and ceremony for the 21 gun salute and the carrying, the pallbearers and carrying the casket and folding the flag and presenting it to their family. I got to tell you,
that's heavy. Aside
from anything else in this world, the hardest thing I have ever done, and I've done a lot of physically and mentally hard shit. Hardest thing I've ever done is be required to maintain military bearing while folding a flag over my dead friend. And it's not just a military member like at Arlington where the pallbearers or whoever doesn't necessarily know the soldier that they're burying. This was a guy I went to basic training with and spent all kinds of training sessions with, and we deployed together. And as it happens over and over again, and in the special operations community, you're not allowed to go see behavioral health specialists. You can't go see a psychiatrist. You could lose your security clearance.
Yeah.
So I think that's changed now.
I was going to say that's not the case anymore, right?
It's changed now, but we're talking 10 years ago. This was the case. So, but you have this op tempo and this camaraderie and all this cool stuff where you're like, okay, well, that was heavy, guys. Let's get back to work. It wasn't like let me explore survivor's guilt. Let me figure out what issues might arise down the road from this trauma. You wouldn't even talk about trauma. It was, we've got a mission. I've got to deploy, or I've got to go send, these guys to this country and these guys to that country. And we've got to go tear down that airframe and make sure it's ready for the next mission, whatever it is. So there just wasn't time for grievance. So when I got out, I didn't really think that I had a problem at all until one day I was in San Francisco about to do a presentation to like an architectural firm or something. And I come off the 3rd Street ramp and I see a guy holding the homeless veteran sign, just cardboard thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I bet you 20 years ago, that guy had no idea he was going to be standing here.
That's crazy.
And then I'm like, what if that's me in 20 years? So I was like, I got to go. I owe it to my wife and kids to go and figure out whether or not that could be me, whether or not there's something that I haven't discovered or haven't thought of as an issue. So I made an appointment at the VA. Day one, I was bawling. I had no idea that I had all this like pent up, survivor's guilt was introduced to me. The psychiatrist had me write out my story and all of the guys that I buried and, watching their helicopter crash in real time and then carrying them to their final resting place while their mother's crying. And I have to just be a brick wall. And all of that just kind of came pouring out. And so ultimately I was in therapy at the VA for 3 years, doing cognitive processing therapy and prolonged exposure therapy and just whatever tools I can get. And mind you, I wasn't a veteran who was like, oh, I'm homeless, or I'm like, can't get a job, or like I'm dysfunctional in society.
Yet.
Like I felt pretty good.
Yet though, right? That was your fear. Yet you weren't that guy yet. Yeah.
And had I not discovered that there was TBI or PTSD or some, whatever you want, I don't care what you want to call it. Had I not discovered that there was an issue there or several issues there, I might be in a really dark place right now. Mm-hmm. And so to segue maybe to some of the stuff that we're doing now, is like, I do it for me. So back to the selfish stuff. I needed, and most veterans, and I want to talk about this for a second. Most veterans are super capable human beings. They can follow, especially as employees and entrepreneurs, they can follow an SOP, a checklist, a set of standards like nobody's business. And they want to know where they're supposed to be, when, in what uniform, act and how. And so for me, what probably saved my life was finding entrepreneurialism, finding, in my case, real estate investing, a niche, a community that was a black hole. It was a blue ocean when we started this company 6 years ago. And finding my brothers and sisters who spoke two of the same languages. They spoke military, which comes with an inherent trust right off the bat. You've been through some of the same stuff. And two, they spoke real estate. And if they didn't, they wanted to speak real estate. We teach them how to speak real estate. And so this isn't about that right now, but that transition gave me hope. So whether somebody is interested in real estate investing or buying car washes or they want to be I don't care, whatever it is, they want to write plays, whatever it is, find a new passion and purpose. If a military member finds new passion and purpose, they can be wildly successful. And if you'll let me, I'd like to break down why veteran suicide is happening. And I think I can paint a pretty clear picture for civilians or anybody.
Let's go there. I got some stuff I want to come back and dive a little deeper on, but I want to, this is one of the things. So go for it.
Okay.
Why?
So, and kind of correlates to what we're talking about here with passion and purpose, part of this conversation. So when you're in the military, you are, especially, at the higher levels in special operations, but even at any level, really, you're given passion, purpose, mission, camaraderie, sense of belonging. You are essentially a sports car, right? Hugging the rails. You're able to go through any pass. You have safety and control well in hand. You know your job. You know your warrior tasks and drills, and at the highest level. You're also given awards and accolades when you do things. You're given pats on the back. You get serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin. You get your body biologically, physically, and chemically. You're getting attaboys all over the place. And even from those chemicals to, hey, you showed up in the right uniform today. You're not getting in trouble today. Yeah. And you know where to be, all that stuff. Now, when you get out of the military, all of a sudden, you no longer have a team. You no longer have camaraderie, mission, sense of purpose. You're surrounded by people who you cannot relate to. No one cares what uniform you're wearing, what you look like, what time you show up, generally speaking, and you're not getting dopamine hits anymore. Now, what's happening to military, to my brothers I still get phone calls with my friends with a gun in their mouth. Why this is happening? They're not trying to do this. They don't even know that it's happening to them. What they're missing is a new sense of passion and purpose. All of those things that were given to them in the military, not even given to them, they were forced to receive in the military. Now, chemically, biologically, their body is trying to continue to get those things. It's like withdrawal. So that sports car now just hit a brick wall. Internally, the driver smashes into the wheel, organs go flying, devastation in the wake. So a military member transitions without a new passion and purpose. They seek attention, dopamine, all those things. They get arrested, they get in fights, destructive behavior, adrenaline-seeking activities like skydiving or bungee jumping or base jumping or whatever it is, off-roading or motorcycling, whatever. You hear that all the time. And that is the body's innate, innately seeking those chemicals again. Destroying relationships, drug and alcohol abuse, and suicide. When they can't make ends meet on why this is happening to them. And one way that veteran suicide can be prevented or reduced, one person at a time, is if they can find a new passion and purpose.
How? So how do I put this? People generally struggle with that, right? With I don't know what my passion and the purpose, and their dopamine hits are different. They have a corporate gig that pays them a big paycheck and a big bonus every year, and they get those hits, and those hits make them stay stuck in that role, right? And then if they do try to go do something else, or they can't because they don't know what to do, they seek other ways to get dopamine. So how is there a different path or a different way? Man, there's like 8 questions that are flying through my mind. Let's start with this though. Is it for a military person, somebody coming out of active duty, is there a prescription, a set of steps, an opening salvo into going down the path of finding purpose? One, and is that unique to them? Is it unique because of the circumstances they come from? Like, do they have a unique maybe way of having to do that versus the rest of us?
Yes. So they can is the answer to that part. And the way that they can achieve new passion and purpose or sense of belonging is actually some things. Just my first Gobundance event, right, in Tahoe. Time, talent, and treasure. The barrier to entry for a military member to understand what to have that transition be effective, and take them out of a dark space or just provide whatever, to transition, they have to, so education, they have to first have somebody like you or I say, hey, what time can you dedicate to learning something you're passionate about? What talents do you have? So time, talent, treasure. What can you give? Because ultimately what you have to do, we're communal human beings. We're communal species. We need a team. We need people. Whether it be a core small group or a vast large group, you need a community. So finding your tribe is important always, right?
Yeah, of course.
And how do you find your tribe? Somebody comes to me and says, how do I find my tribe? What are you passionate about? What is your talent? What can you give your time to and make it and just have it not feel like work? If that's, I'm a super connector of people. I love listening to 2 different people and figuring out who's the solution. I want to be the in-between man, I love that. That's my dopamine hit, right? That's your dopamine hit.
100%.
There's value in that. So somebody comes to me and I get this all the dang time. I don't really have any value to add. I don't know what am I supposed to do? Every conversation you have with somebody is an opportunity to add value. And I don't care if it's somebody pumping gas at a gas station or you're at a real estate conference. Add value in your conversation. And the way you can do that, we are whiners by design. We humans will tell you their problems if you just listen long enough. And they'll either say, oh, the weather's bad, or, oh, I lost this deal and it's really complicated and my life is crazy and I'm so busy right now. We, including myself, we just do this naturally. I will tell you my problems if you ask, but I'll also tell you my problems if you listen long enough. And when you're actively engaged in a conversation and like I'm here to network, and again, I don't care where it is. Like I talk to my dentist about real estate investing, like everybody, so like, tell me what your problems are. I don't say that, but I listen for problems. And then I'm gonna be like, I'm going to send you an umbrella that's a badass umbrella because I know it rains a lot in Seattle. And it's going to be monogrammed or whatever, like that's solving a problem for somebody. And so people who say, I don't know where to start or I don't have any value to add, you just have to listen and then go take that bold, decisive action, that one-time courage of just making that step of, I'm going to solve your problem.
Be an ear. I love that. I say that all the time. Be an ear. Like you can add value simply by giving you have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Like, listen, be an ear for people. I love that, man. That's great advice. It makes me wonder though, does the military not own, or do they do anything to assist in that transition? It's a problem.
They do their best. And there are a couple that come to mind. And I'll say this, that it's not the military. They do what they can, but it's not the military's job to help people transition out of the military. Their job is war fighting and defending in general. If we're just going to,
why is it not their job?
Streamline them.
Like you've said,
let me say this,
to them, hey, I'm going to commit to you. I'm going to give my life and potentially lay it down
Yep.
for this complex, right?
Yeah.
For this thing and for this country. So why doesn't the military then it's veterans? Because you're still connected, right? You're a veteran. You just kind of change your designation. Why does it not it's veterans all they can as far as the transition?
It does owe veterans that transition. It's just not their primary goal. Their primary goal is getting people in the pipeline, fighting and defending. Now, what they do on the back end of that is the transition assistance program. They've got all TAPS. You got to go on your way out. When you're like 6 months out, you are required to go to a bunch of briefs that talk about financial education, which are, by the way, like Edward Jones boring. Like they're like, you know what I mean? They're like somebody will sit there and be like, you should invest in your thrift savings plan, which is like the 401k for military.
Yeah.
And so there are a bunch of things out there that are helpful. Another one that we participate in, we just got approved as a national partner for DoD SkillBridge. So Department of Defense just approved our company for this program where now we can hire an intern who is leaving the military up to 6 months before they actually leave. The military pays them just like they're working every day doing their regular military job. So the military pays them and we get to use their services. So we will teach them content marketing or, whatever thing we need to grow our business. So it helps them transition. And there are a couple thousand companies. You don't have to be like a military affiliated even company to do that. It's just companies that want to hire or at least get military interns to help them transition and teach them. So if you're a business owner, listen to this out there, look into DoD SkillBridge, and a great opportunity to hire a veteran or to train a veteran when they are on their way out of the military, and it is no cost to you.
You mentioned veteran homelessness. Mm-hmm. That's the guy with the sign. Was that the moment where a passion for ending veteran homelessness came, or was there another story there?
It was not. It wasn't until 7 years later. It was in December of 2019. I was speaking at a buddy of mine, Nathan Brooks. He's actually been on the BP podcast a bunch of times, but I was speaking at his event in KC, and I just said, because I'm a big vision board guy and manifesting stuff and how amazing that works. So I was like, I'm going to say this in front of a couple hundred people. I'm going to figure out a way to donate a house to a homeless veteran in 2020. So I just declared it. And I didn't even have it. It wasn't scripted. It wasn't part of my talk at all. But I just was like, I'm compelled. It was Christmas time. And I'm like, dang, I'm going to just do this. Well, as life would have it, Veterans Community Project is started in Kansas City with a 2-acre property and 49 tiny homes on campus. Yeah. And Nathan's like, I didn't know you wanted to do that. Like, it's right here in Kansas City. And now they're in 6 cities and all over the place. And so it started by saying, how am I going to do that? Didn't know how I was going to raise the money. Didn't know, to build one of those houses with all the operating expenses incurred is about 50 grand. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do that. I don't care. I'm just going to go do it. We ended up donating 2 houses that year. Wow. And then last year I was like, I'm going to step this up. So it was like end of 2021. I was like, I'm going to step this up. So in 2022, I organized with 12 real estate investor buddies. We hiked the Tahoe Rim Trail, which is 170 miles. Wow. And the goal was $1,000 per mile hiked. The 12 of us committed to raising $15,000 each, and we would achieve our goal. We raised $190,000, and which is going to change the lives of hundreds of homeless veterans for years to come. And we hiked 170 miles in 9 days with 40 pounds on our back, no bathrooms, no running water, no campgrounds, just some folks walking through the woods. So I don't know. That's kind of, now I'm like, what more can I do? And I'm constantly pushing the nonprofit. I'm like, hey guys, what more can I do? Who can I connect you with? Randomly met a senator at a real estate event. Connected him with Veterans Community Project. And now all of a sudden across from the state capitol in Oklahoma City, they're going to build a Veterans Community Project.
Wow, man.
So
that's amazing.
Just so cool to be able to make tiny connections that are going to have a ripple, Is
there a correlation? It's not every one of them, but is the percentage of homelessness highly correlated to being a veteran? Meaning, is it a large percentage of the homeless population? Do they have veteran status?
No, I don't know that stat, but I don't believe it is. And the reason I say that is because I know that there are a lot of homeless people in the US, and there are actually not a lot of homeless veterans statistically. And let me tell you,
right.
In 2020, there were 38,000 homeless veterans on the streets.
Wow.
It's a big number, but it is a manageable number.
How many homeless people are there?
I don't know. That's I'm going to look it up after this.
Wow, me too.
After this interview. And then so 38,000, but then last year they did another poll and they're now 32,000. So we are making massive dents in this problem with nonprofits like Veterans Community Project. And the chances, here's a really heartfelt, impactful thing that I know. If a veteran who's been homeless is given 18 months of stable housing, their chances of staying off the streets for the rest of their life is 95%.
That's incredible.
So not only
that's that resilience.
Yeah. It is like, I need a leg up. Something bad happened in my life, and you're going to give me the discipline and the knowledge and the tools that I need to stay out. I'm going to do it because I deserve it. And they do. So it's a really cool thing to know that it's like a very impactful thing. It's a very achievable thing. Ending veteran homelessness this decade is on my vision board. I say it on every stage that I'm on because it's going to happen. And in fact, man, in Tahoe on the Giving Council panel, I just stood up and I was like, I need to be on that. I need to be with you guys. And we have biweekly calls now with the Giving Council. I'm super just honored to be part of that because it's what I'm like, we can make huge changes. And even if you change one life, do you know how impactful that is? That's like, it's somebody's dad. Yeah. It's somebody's mom. It's somebody's kids. They're sleeping under bridges. It's so sad. And somebody who fought for our rights. Right. They volunteered to be up front where the fighting is hard.
And whatever, to your point, like taking a bet on a warrior, right? Like you're putting your money on a warrior. Hey, if I get you stable housing for 18 months, so a warrior takes over at that point, right? Like it's not, you don't look at it as entitled or whatever. You understand the opportunity and you run with it. That's really cool. By the way, it's 600,000 homeless, just under, in the U.S. Okay. So about 5% of that, it sounds like, is maybe a little bit more is veteran homeless. But that's incredible that the numbers have gone down. Yeah, it's like you never hear about numbers like that going down.
Yeah,
you know,
right. Yep,
that's real progress. That's incredible. On the point of ADPI, where did this idea come from? Like, when did real estate enter the fray for you? Was it while you were still active? That's why it's called active duty. Like, what was give me the genesis, give me the beginnings of this whole movement?
Yeah. Well, most military members become accidental landlords. I bought my first house in 2006, 100% leveraged with the VA loan. So no money out of pocket on a new construction property. Then I lived in it for 5 years. When I got out of the military, moved back to the San Francisco Bay Area. And I was like, man, can I do this better? Like the house is making like $80 a month cash flow. It's like, and then I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I'm like, okay, I'm not the only one thinking this. All of a sudden, and when you get that first initial thing, you're like, all of a sudden the world just expands. Like you're just like, oh my gosh, everyone is doing this. Yeah. Where was I?
True.
So, I don't know. From there, it was I was just trying things. I was flipping in the Bay Area. I'd just moved my family from house to house, and we'd sell it along the way, and we were making money doing that. Just buying in nice areas and just watching the market. I lucked out. We did force some appreciation, but mostly Bay Area market appreciation over a 5-year period was killer. Sure. So I did that 3 times. And then the way ADPI came around was 2017. Actually, Nathan Brooks again. I just bought a turnkey property. I was like, I don't know. I want to just like have one done for me. I just want to be an investor. The cash flow is $200 a month. So that's better than what I was doing. So, bought it. And then he goes, hey, there's this, 20-person Facebook group that I got targeted for whatever. And it was Markion, my partner. He started this Facebook group called Active Duty Passive Income, where he was just sharing. And it was like a couple months old with, 20 people. And it's like trying to get your friends to join,
Right.
like, hey, mom, come on in.
Yeah.
And so I reached out and I was like, hey, I just bought a turnkey property. I'm a military guy. I want to share what I know. He goes, I didn't know there were like more people that wanted to do this. I was like, yeah, let's do this. And so it went from 20 people to then just sharing our experiences and really listening to what the community was asking for. And so we'd write blogs or just provide more insight. And it went from that to we're about 70,000 members now, 5 years later. 2 years ago, we were at 17,000 members. So the growth is hockey stick. We have 3,000 people waiting every day to get into the group. And we deny about a third of them because
why? They're not active duty or?
Well, it's so active duty passive income is just a play on words. A large percentage of our community is military and military spouses also. I mean, veterans and military spouses as well.
Sure.
But if they are not military affiliated, they can't come in. We just say, even like my friends, I'm sorry, it's super clean and intentional niche for a very good reason, And
how do you verify it?
There's no science to it, but it's like we ask them what their military affiliation is in the question. And sometimes it's like, it'll say something that you're like, okay, you have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
You're out. And then sometimes they'll say like, sometimes it'll be like
12 Marine.
Yeah. Sometimes it'll be like, active duty or something like that. So our moderators who are military spouses will go into their profile and just look to see what they can see, a picture with the person in a military uniform or their spouse or whatever. And so that's kind of clunky, but 70,000 people and growing by, 3 to 5% per month. So
crazy.
Yeah.
What's the model, the business? So you join ADPI, what happens?
Yeah.
What's the ascension look like?
Top of funnel, I would say, is the community, right? The free Facebook group. And then we have the Military Real Estate Investing Academy, which is about 100 lessons, teaches people how to buy 1 to 4 unit deals. And
residential. Yep.
That's what our book, those listening can't see it, but that's what our #1 best-selling book on Amazon is all about. Stuff that we never knew. So we wrote a book about it. Like no one taught me I could put 0 down on a 4-plex. They told me buy a single family house and my realtor,
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, if I had known I could buy a 4-plex in Savannah, Georgia, I would have done that and just lived in one of the units. But anyway, so Military Real Estate Investing Academy and cohort classes. So the mastermind section of walking them through an 8-week cohort class to make sure everyone gets the information, knows and military people we love class, cohorts. We love when I'm like class 2301 alpha is my class name, right? And everyone in the military is accustomed to that designation. It's 23, the year, and then whatever class designation number you are. That gives you a tribe. These are my people in this cohort. I'm learning with them, and they're part of my team when we take down deals. So there's that one. And then the Military Multifamily Academy teaches people how to buy 5+ commercial assets. And then we have the Military Short-Term Rental Academy. That's about 6 months old now, which is absolutely crushing it because everyone loves short-term rentals.
Everybody does. You have a podcast too.
Podcast also. Yep. Just self-titled
coolest guest, because you've had some big names. Who's your coolest guest?
Oh, man. Robert Kiyosaki. I wasn't on that interview, but Robert Kiyosaki, we got in like 2018 or 2019 or something like that. And that's a cool podcast because he talks about crashing helicopters in Vietnam more than he does real estate.
Was he a dick? Did they say? I hear that about him. That he can be kind of prickly.
No, we had a great conversation. I mean, I'm sure he has his moments, but he knew he was talking to some military guys that would want to ask him about some military stuff. And I think it was probably refreshing for them. But I mean, we've had Jocko. That was
how'd you get Jocko? You were telling me before, but share that story. I like that.
Yeah. So bold, decisive action, nothing to lose in this world. I'm not getting shot at, so I have no problems just cold reaching out to people or cold networking opportunities. So I was at a conference and I I knew he was speaking. So I brought our book, and I brought a military challenge coin for ADPI. And I knew that, I mean, I could obviously figure out where backstage was. Door was cracked. I just walked in. I walked backstage and I saw him there. He just finished his keynote. And I just said, "Hey, my name's Eric Upchurch. I served in Special Operations Aviation Regiment," which he knew very well because we've put him time on target every night, whenever he's out. And I just said, "I've got a gift for you. And I'd love to talk to you about our community and invite you on the podcast if you're interested in it." And shook his hand, gave him the coin, gave him the book. And he said, "Yeah, man, glad to anytime. Here's the contact information for the person to schedule it." And the rest is history. So, it's hard to do that sometimes. For some people, they'd be like, "Oh, I'd never be able to do that." Well, I was shitting bricks too, like thinking you have this feeling of like, I'm doing something wrong. I'm definitely not supposed to be just going backstage on my own, and meandering through the back of someone else's gig. So, but that was something that I was willing to do. Because in order to succeed in business, you have to be willing to do what others are not. And you can make a lot of impact by doing that. I did something very similar for Shaquille O'Neal, who we'll be interviewing hopefully shortly. He's not the easiest to schedule, I have to say. But
I just saw him on, Travis Chappell. You know that name?
Yeah.
I just saw him. He did something for Travis Chappell. I don't know if it was a quick 5-minute segment or whatever. I was just talking to Travis about going on or having him on this podcast.
Cool. Yeah.
Maybe doing it live, but he's out there. Why is Shaq out there? Is he promoting something?
Shaq? Oh, he was at a real estate conference. I mean, he buys car washes like crazy.
That's true. True. That's interesting. Besides Shaq, I was going to ask you, is there any other guest that you like? You got Shaq in the hopper. Is there somebody is there a dream guest?
Yeah. Actually working on Goggins, which is like
that would be big
unicorn.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been talking to his fiance for 2 years now, and she's like, "No, we're not doing podcasts." But she did say, your company and mission is top 12 of people that we would consider to have him on. So I'm like,
wow,
right, cool.
Top 12. That's very specific.
Yeah, I know. I was like, okay.
Top 11 and a half.
She might have said dozen, and in my mind, it was like 12. It's 12. We're top 12. We're probably number 12, but maybe she was just being nice. But I also did say to her, I said, "Do you have a PO box or something for the business? I'd like to send you a gift." And so I wrote a personalized card, sent our book, sent a challenge coin for him, and just said, we'd love to have you on whenever you're available.
Do you get deals from your community, or do you anticipate doing that?
Yeah. So the Military Multifamily Academy students will be buying deals. I mean, we've just polled them recently, and the ones that responded to the poll, just on assets under management, over $1 billion already. Wow. And just in the last couple of years. And that was probably 40% of the respondents. I don't know. So they are actively getting educated by us. And they can go find the deals. We don't care if they come to us with the deals or not, but if they need help on the equity, it's a smart thing to do, to go back to your tribe and be like, "Hey, here's a deal. It's sweet. We're going to bump rents by $400 and here's the value add and whatever," and apply for that equity. And then if we can provide it, I mean, that's the dream. So
what's your day-to-day role in ADPI at this point? Obviously you're setting up this fund, but what's a day in the life for the founders? Because I'm just thinking about this. You maybe like Gobundance a little bit, you create this thing, you're hands-on, you got 20 people in a Facebook group. So you're creating the education, and everything. But now, my God, you probably have students that have bypassed your knowledge base, right? So what is your role? What is it that you do on a day-to-day basis? What's your, I don't know, how have you fallen into or leveled into wherever you are right now?
Yeah, it's changed a lot. So I've gone from co-founder to that title, if you will, or that role will never change. But then COO to now VP of Business Development, and it's interesting because I used to be like Markion and I creating the content and doing Facebook Lives, and we were very innovative. I was just joking with Adam Labar the other day. And I was like, man, like, I don't even know what's going on in the Facebook group anymore. Like
Crazy,
we're so far. So now we're working in the business and on the business. I mean, we hired an EOS implementer. And so we have these 8-hour sessions once a month where we're like really getting intentional about creating a sustainable long-term vision for this business, because we're growing fast. And like, getting insurance and like, we have W-2 and 1099, getting payroll and HR set up. And we're like, we didn't think about all of that. When you start a business, you're like, this is like the big boy, like pull up your pants type of stuff. We just thought it was like a fun Facebook group at the beginning.
So what do you roll it up? Do you sell this?
We will always prepare. That's not the plan right now, but we, just like in real estate, multiple exit strategies. Sure. Our agreements will be set up and are set up for a sale if that comes down to it. But it would have to be, this could very easily be a legacy company, and hiring ourselves out of a job to become board members and letting real CEOs run the business as a CEO is kind of the short-term vision. So
what do you think the enterprise, what would be the valuation on an ADPI? It's a unique, it isn't a unique business, right? In some ways it's not. Yeah. Do you have any sense? Like multiple?
Well, we're actually about to go through evaluation, so it will be interesting. We do have IP. We have a million trademarks, but we have registered trademarks as well that have value. We have the websites that have value. Like all those little things, you're like the intangibles. You're kind of like, I don't know. We've built out all these systems and we've built the community, and so there's all value to all this stuff. And then there's our bottom line, our balance sheet, and all that stuff, which is awesome. We bootstrap this company. We've never had debt. We never took on a VC to grow the company or anything. We don't have any loans, and we're doing really well. So vision is we're going to prepare for a sale as if we were going to make it lucrative, to make it awesome. But we want to hold, because the impact is truly a stakeholder capitalism model where the people we work with benefit, and that's valuable to us. So our partners, our affiliates, certainly our constituents, our community are all getting value from it as well, and building their. So there's that impact. Is actually one of our core values is just impact, and really making sure that that's shored up, because we don't have to sell. No rush, but we're going to have that.
But you built something incredible. I've watched it, just been knowing Adam Labar for a few years. We were in Willbauer Profits together, and then Gobundance, and just like what he was talking about. Well, like you said, it was like this really cool Facebook community at one point, not long ago. And now, like, the more you hear about it, it's like, whoa, what did you build? Like, how did you build? Whoa, this is like a huge deal now. Not that it wasn't before, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's grown into it's a beast. HR and W-2, you've got a real
mind of its own.
Right. It's its own monster now, which is really, really cool. So here's the question then. I go back to when you're talking about the flare and the night vision goggles, and why don't we, what was it? Pink powder, pink
dust.
Pink dust. Why don't we make pink dust out of these people? It's like, hey, we're taking bullets, but we're on mission. What are the bullets right now that you have to avoid because of the mission?
Man, shiny object.
Like what? Like what are some of them?
I'll give you a great example. Before our call here, I was just on a call with the assistant director of the Department of Veterans Affairs. And which is crazy. A friend of mine is a Medal of Honor recipient, and he's like, I'm a customer of ADPI. I think more people need to know about ADPI. I'm an investor because of ADPI. And he's like, you guys need the VA. You need to get this education out to as many veterans as possible. So I'm on this call, and I'm realizing I'm super thankful just to be on the call, because I love connecting and finding out, right? Like what problems, where are compatibilities? And I'm like realizing the VA doesn't like for-profit companies. Or not that they don't like them, but that's not their model. Like they want everybody to give away free education. That's not our model. And in fact, a point I made, because I was just like, I'm going to be upfront with you guys. I'm not sugarcoating anything. I'm not wearing a suit. I'm wearing like a jacket and a hat. So I'm going to tell you that if people pay for education, they're 98% more likely to act and change their life. All of the companies that they listed off that they are working with that give away quote unquote free education, there's a USAA logo on the free education. So the correlation I made was like, yeah, they might be giving away free education, and 90% of what we do is free. You can go on there and just learn a lot. I mean, you can go on Bigger Pockets, you can go on Google it on the internet and get it for free. But they're putting it's a lender that is putting their name on free basic education, like vanilla. And then, which is probably, it's like, it's not for investors. It's not for anything outside of the box. It's like, I want a home loan type of education, right? First time home buyer type education. And they think that this is like the golden answer to getting people, into a great financial situation. And that's how USAA does a great job marketing it. Right. I'm just picking on USAA as a bland example.
No, I get it.
So where's the bullet come flying is me going, oh man, if the VA could subsidize all of our education, pay us so that veterans could get our education, even discounted, that would be millions more veterans. There's 16 million veterans out there that some of them are going to want our education. Instead of paying for it, they qualify through the VA, and the VA, like, I just had to realize at the end of this call, that's not their model. The VA, the Department of Education, the VA does not see that. They don't understand that. They don't want people to pay for something, but we know, when you pay for something, you're going to execute that thing
all day.
When you get something for free, Monday comes around, you forget about it. You're like, I'll get to it sometime.
I've seen it, man. I've seen there's been Gobundance guys and women who have paid for their kids to join a merge, and they ghost it. They don't use it, right? There's no like, my dad or my mom gave me this thing. But they don't show up, or they show up once or whatever. It's unfortunate, but it's true. Some people vilify, like you said, the word solicit. Some people vilify the idea of, oh, you're charging. Why don't you just give this away for free? And it's to your point. It's like, look, my time has value. Not that I'm looking, but my point is like, I'm putting a lot of effort and energy into teaching this, into giving this information out, right? I want to know that you're invested in it like I am. And it's the medium that our society at large has decided that we're going to use as a way to tie energy to something. It's money. That's it. That's just what it is. That's the medium. If it were cell phones, then great. Give me cell phones or whatever it might be. So no, that makes a lot of sense. That's really interesting. Are there any other bullets flying at you that you guys that are keeping you off?
I mean, every week. I mean, and I'm like the opportunity guy. I'm talking to so many people all the time. I'm like, guys, I'm not trying to steer us in the wrong direction here. So let's stay on course. But this just came up. If it resonates with anybody, let me know. Just to the other owners, and we've had to work really, really hard on. In fact, we had a theme. You know how we have on our one sheet we have themes and stuff before. As part of Gobundance, one of our themes for ADPI was no new ideas. That was the year's theme. I think it was like 2020. We're like, no new ideas. Just
how long did that last? How long did it last?
I mean, we still had new ideas, but we always could come back to like, okay, guys, but that's not. But we need to like revamp this course, or like we need to focus on this one thing. So
you guys, there's 4 partners.
There's 5 of us. Yeah.
5 of you. What is the one thing right now that risks breaking the partnership apart between you? What's the biggest risk to your partnership right now? Personality wise, conflict wise, like
we are so, I would say, structural vulnerabilities that we're not aware of as of right now. Like we haven't been sued. I'm just, we're a company that does what we can to make things right, even when things aren't. And we'll continue down the road. But the more people know about you, the more likely that is. But that's not going to break us either. And I'll say this, we have separated partnerships from previous partners in the company. And while that is hard, we are such a solid team now, like to the point where we can't stop saying to each other on occasion how light we feel, how free, like we can communicate effectively. We can make decisions better without thinking like, I have to feel guilty about that, or I have to, oh my gosh, I'm not doing that right. And so, and this correlates to the military. When you got a bad apple in a squad that has a terrible attitude, everybody has a terrible attitude. So you get rid of that, especially in the special operations community, because you can kick them out of special operations. If they're like needs of the Army in a regular unit, what are you going to do? You're going to punish them. You're going to do whatever. You can't kick them out. Yeah. But so if you can remove people who don't see the same path, or that don't have the same leadership style, or you don't see eye to eye, you got to move on. And that's part of the vulnerability of starting a new business is, what do you do when you get started? You can't pay somebody. You can just inspire somebody at the beginning. You're like, I don't know, let me give you a little bit of equity or something. Like, I don't have any money. We're not even making any money. We haven't made a sale yet, but let me give you a little bit of equity. But then come find out 2, 3, 4 years later down the road, they are not the right partner. And that's really hard, because then you got to figure out a way to separate.
Is there a way that you could, like, looking at the ones that you separated from, is there any common theme on, like, you know what, this is the trait. Now we know now, like, that we don't want to get started with. Is there something, or not even the trait of the person, but maybe the situation within which, like, that they're part-time, not full-time? I don't know. Like, what?
No, I would say there's no I in team is just absolutely thing. I was trying to put this together with these people in mind. People who have I am more efficient than you. I am better than you. I am doing this for me. I am, if they're focused on them and they think that they're doing more, or they're doing better, or your expectations aren't met, or you're not meeting your expectations. I mean, that is heavy. That is so heavy. I've heard you talk about this, like heavy and light. And that really, like, opened my eyes up to that feeling. It's physical feeling of, like, when we separated with partners in the past, it's like, I feel like I could float. Like, I'm like, I can make decisions, like, that are great for the company, and it can affect more people. And so we're at a place now where we're like, all of us are really happy, and we do not see the same flags that we've experienced in the past. So it's been awesome.
Very cool. Talk about Gobundance for a minute. I know I'm taking you right to the wire here, but talk about Gobundance for a minute. You joined recently. Your two partners, Tim and Adam, they've been in it for a while. Like, how's that been? What's it been for you? Why'd you join? Kind of give me your experience so far.
Yeah. So Gobundance, I had it on the 2023 list of things to do. And for whatever reason, it came across my inbox or social media, or actually Adam and Tim have been grinding on me to join for a while now also. So I joined in December of 2022, and went to my first. I live just down the hill from Tahoe, so it was an easy drive for me. But went to the first Tahoe event, the winter event, and I explained this to people, like, whenever I go to a new conference on a new, just call it topic, new subset of people, new tribe, it's a little clunky at first, because you're like a newborn, fawn trying to, like, get, like, who's going to like me? Where do I sit? How do I interact? What are these people about? How's the conversation? What language are people talking? Using words like one sheet and stuff. Like, you have to know some of it, or be comfortable just knowing that you're a fawn. You're just a baby right now,
Sure.
So I went, and I was intentional about that. I knew that was the case. And I found a tribe that I love. I mean, what I recognized is 70% of the conversations we were having are, like, problems that are relative to my life. And I'm like, every man in this room is talking about the same problems. And for a communal species like we are, to find a group of people that make you feel like you're not alone, that's all you could ask for. Like, these guys are just like me. And then you realize that they're completely transparent about how they make money. And no one's shy about talking about how much they made last year, because no one cares.
Right.
It's about how can you do better. And in fact, the giving pillar, how can you give more? Why did you not give enough? You made this amount of money last year and you only gave that much. Let's work on that. That was super impactful to me, to see that 240 men in that room were going, here are my problems. Do you have any advice for me and my spouse?
Right.
I was like, this isn't just a business conference. This is about being better men and businessmen and husbands. And so that was my biggest takeaway. Like, it's a refreshing take at a business at looking at business.
Sure. Yeah, whole life, right? Kind of the whole life approach, as opposed to just simply like people say that, like, do people do partnerships? Like, yeah, but because they have become friends and have built relationships within the community, right? It's like you said, it's not like, let me drop my deal in here and like, let me wheel and deal. Like, that's not, you're going to be really disappointed if you come in with the idea of, oh, okay, let me find the money-making angle, and then we're all in on fatherhood. Or we talked about, there were a lot of relationship discussions at that event, at least on my end. That's what I took from it. That's why when we had Bill you up there, we started with that, right? Like relationship between spouses and that sort of thing. So that was an awesome event too. I'm glad that was your first, because I remember going to my first in Aspen a couple of years ago, and it was like that. It was like, whoa. And then the events were good, but there was a little bit of like a feeling out over the last year or so of like, what's the right cadence? How many should we have? Like, what's the content look like? How much stage time versus networking? And Tahoe like hit it. It just hit that balance really, really well. I think Lake Oconee almost sold out now in October or whatever. Yeah. So it's like that coming off of that, so crazy. But let's wrap this. I want to be respectful of your time on the Gobundance card game. So the two of diamonds is the card. And the question is, in 40 years, so 2063, you'll be 82 years old, I think. What will people be nostalgic for?
Just in general?
Yeah. What's something that people are going to be like, oh, back when I was.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this
today. What are people going to look at today as like, oh, that's like, remember when it was just like that?
Yeah. I think people are going to look back at this time and crave the lack of technology that we have.
I was going to say the same. Yeah, go for it.
We think that it's like, now we're obviously watching AI take over and stuff, but it's so basic right now. And you could just feel the energy in the air about what is about to happen. So 40 years from now, we're going to look back now and be like, we thought we had it. We thought tech was like big deal then. God, I can't even imagine. We're going to be old guys going like, oh, I can't even imagine raising kids in this environment now.
Talk about Tom Bilyeu. One of his signature, stories that he's using to create impact theory. Like that's his whole model is we didn't even get to it, is a comic book series called Neon Future. And it's about a battle between two different divides in society. They call it the augmented, those who are fully chipped, like technologically integrated, and the authentic, those who have denied technology. Like, right? Like when you listen to him talk about vision, and then what you just said, like especially like even in the last 3 weeks, AI has become like a mountain. It's all you hear about. And I'm using ChatGPT. I'm blown away by its capability right now. Right. So it's funny to think like just a month and a half after being there, where this guy is talking about the future. And if you look at what he does, he has literally a comic book series battle between the augmented and the authentic in 40 years. Whoo, creepy.
Yeah, people are going to look back at those types of resources like it's reading Think and Grow Rich, It's like this 80-year-old document and like, this guy saw the future.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. Oh man, this is great, Eric. How can people learn more about you? Where do you want to direct folks to get more into what your world is?
I'll give my email. It's eric@activedutypassiveincome.com. You can check out our website, activedutypassiveincome.com, or my personal website, ericupchurch.com. Hit me up on Instagram. Also, I'd love to connect. If you have questions, it's at real Eric Upchurch. And I don't know if there are any fake Eric Upchurches out there yet, but I figured someday there might be. So I don't know.
You haven't had one yet?
No. No.
Cool.
Long story.
You're not cool.
I get invites from you every day. So,
That's so frustrating.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, just reach out. I'm an open book. I'd love to help any military members break through barriers, or if you have any opportunities that you want to talk about. Just whatever. I love helping people, and please reach out. Yeah.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for doing this. Appreciate seeing you in Tahoe. Great getting to know you. You're way taller than you look on Facebook for whatever that matters.
Everybody says that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
You got a taller than Facebook look. So appreciate you, brother. Thanks for doing it.
Yeah. Thanks, Jerry.